Why is it that the day after you achieve your biggest goal is honestly often the most depressing day of the year?
Yeah, it's that classic letdown.
Right. I mean, you chase the win, you finally get it, and then there's just this heavy, hollow emptiness. So today we're doing a deep dive into a really poignant short devotional text titled Talking About Jesus, which tackles that exact feeling head on.
It really does. And the mission for you listening today is to explore this text's blueprint for spiritual grounding. It's all about how to find this unchanging anchor when your circumstances are just pulling you in 100 different directions.
Exactly. And the text zeroes in on this specific diagnosis of the human struggle, calling it a divided heart, which is this exhausting state where you're seeking the divine or seeking peace in your words, but your actual daily actions are just a desperate scramble for like temporary fixes.
Right? The author argues we're constantly confusing what actually sustains us with things that just distract us. I mean, we chase these empty satisfactions while ignoring the kind of profound rest that the text calls a peace the world cannot give.
It's kind of like eating junk food when you're literally starving.
Ah, that's a great way to put it.
Like, it tastes great for a split second, right? But it leaves you fundamentally undernourished. So if we're constantly burning out from chasing those fleeting highs, how does the text propose we actually fix this divided heart?
Well, instead of treating divine presence like, a tourist destination, like a place you just visit during a 5-minute morning meditation, the text suggests making it your true home.
A true home.
Yeah, it has to be the baseline where your soul actually rests and gets renewed, not just a panic room you run to when you're overwhelmed.
Okay, but telling someone to just, live in a state of peace feels kind of impossible when real life throws a massive curveball at you. Like, does the author have a practical way to deal with the actual grief of a random Tuesday afternoon?
They do, actually. It's surprisingly practical. The text doesn't say, pretend the bad stuff isn't happening. It actively advises laying that grief and anxiety directly before God, trusting that your lowest points are fully understood.
Okay, so total surrender of the bad stuff. That makes sense.
Right. But the real psychological challenge here isn't about the lows. The author gives a really strong warning against clinging to happiness and success. They specifically say not to cling to the gifts more than the giver.
Wait, I have to push back on that because I know anyone listening right now is thinking, surrendering sorrow. Sure, please take my anxiety, but surrendering
Gone.
joy.
I know, it sounds counterintuitive.
It really does. It's basic human nature to grip as tightly as possible when we finally get a win.
But that desperation to hold on to the win is exactly what creates that exhausting emotional whiplash we were talking about at the start.
Oh, so the emptiness after the goal.
Exactly. When you cling to the temporary thrill of a success, you turn a passing moment into your ultimate idol. And if your joy becomes the final destination, you're devastated when it naturally fades. The text argues that every joy should just be a vehicle, a reminder that leads you back to worshiping the unchanging source of that joy.
Wow, okay. Because if you anchor your entire well-being to the win, you drown when the win eventually passes.
Spot on. And the author actually compares this emotional volatility to the tide. They point out how wildly unreliable human feelings are. Like you might be totally fired up and full of zeal today.
But then utterly weary and cold tomorrow.
Right. And relying on that emotional tide makes your walk completely unstable. So to counter this, the text urges walking by faith, trusting an unchanging word over what they call a shifting heart.
It's the difference between dressing for the daily weather versus trusting the overall climate.
Oh, like
Like
that.
our shifting emotions, that's just the daily weather. It rains, it's sunny, but unchanging faith is knowing that the climate is the same. It's still winter even on a weirdly warm day.
Yeah, and taking that weather analogy a step further, it reframes what spiritual emptiness actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling distant doesn't mean the divine has abandoned you.
Right.
It just means the tide of your human emotion has temporarily receded. The ocean floor hasn't disappeared just because the water pulled back.
That's such a comforting shift. You don't have to fix the receding tide, you just wait it out. So, just to pull all this together for you listening, we've explored a text that suggests a massive paradigm shift. Moving away from chasing passing pleasures and riding that emotional tide, and instead seeking an unchanging presence.
Yeah, making that presence your true home, regardless of whether you're in a valley of sorrow or at the peak of success.
So I want to leave you with this final thought today. If our emotions really are as predictable as the tide, constantly rising and falling, how much of your daily exhaustion comes simply from fighting that natural current instead of anchoring yourself to something unchanging?